Hey, it's 2020. We're back here at the garden, and we're looking at the private driveway on by the fire station. There's the tree doctor truck up above, where we just got done planting a redwood tree on private property where they're supposed to be putting 9 houses. But that's in the conservation easement, so they'll think it's native, unless they see this video. So the Green Seattle Partnership, or the Parks Department, has cleared this area alongside this driveway, and they put in these bunch of nice ferns and salal. And then they've got the clematis going, I'd say 45 feet up an alder tree, so they haven't really done that since our last walkthrough. But this is kind of what these look like. Salal, sword fern. So as we do our little walkthrough that we last did about 5 years ago, we see that the blackberries are still hitting the pedestrians in the face, and the Parks Department doesn't really seem to care. Whoops! Oh my goodness. That's not blackberries. That's roses. Okay, well, anyway, they're still hitting the pedestrians in the face, and the sidewalk is pretty much blocked for about two or 3 feet by the 106 bus stop. And of course, the buses have been. This is actually stop number 56280 for King County Metro. So call that number. Tell them to please prune back this stuff so people waiting for the bus don't start throwing their trash down in here. So last time we were here, there was a chain link fence right here, right by this telephone pole, utility pole, and that has been removed. And this is pole number 1343569, and you can see the wound response where the locust tree had this piece of chain link top rail grown around it. And then you can also see where it looks like the vandals have cut, and that allows people to go down there, camp, and throw trash and live. So right in here you can see that the hillside is falling off onto the sidewalk, so there's a maintenance issue that's kind of not being addressed. And the trees that we planted are now 10 or 20 feet high. So that's really fantastic. The ferns have made it. Here's some Nandina, Oregon grape here that's made it. This is just fantastic. And it's even starting to flower. Look at that. And you can see that cameras have improved since then, folks. So all in here, this clump of black locust, Robinia pseudoacacia from East Texas, where there's like 4 inches of rainfall per year, has been thinned, and it's been injected. So if you guys are into herbicides, you can see the little no, come on now. I hope it's still going. Is it? Yeah, I think it's still going. All right, there you go. Those are the capsules full of herbicide. Last time I think we walked straight in, but this time let's walk along the edge. Okay, so we've got 30-foot tall cascara trees in here. Here's a big leaf maple, and I guess you people know that I believe it was Mrs. Huffaker, had a little blue house here. And here's her ornamental stone wall with marble set in there, little slate flagstones with these planters are actually, I think they're the top of pressure tanks that they used. Yeah, in fact you can see where the pressure tank has rusted out. And they use these for retaining walls all over and through here with the brick retaining wall. Whole bunch of pillars and posts. This is outside the historic landmark, and maybe it should be put back in to the historic landmark. Maybe we should be adding to the historic landmark. And then, so the huge roadie, and on the other side of the roadie, you can see those two saguaro cypress, a pair of those. And to the left of them, you've got western red cedar. In the foreground, we've got these locust trees, and which one of them I girdled a while back, maybe 10 years ago. So all this is evidence. So as we look back towards the bus stop, you can see how far out the ivy has grown out onto that locust tree. And it's, in fact, if I just step out into the street, you can actually measure it. I would say it's probably about 7 feet. 7 feet out over the street. Ivy. Thank you for keeping this up for us, because this is city land and we pay our taxes. There you go. Okay, so we're going to step up in and look at these native conifer trees. Go! We've got a lot of vine maples in here that made it. Now those were from a second pass after I ceased operations in about 2017. So I did it from 2010 to 2016 or 17. And you can see Doug firs, 10 feet tall, 12 feet tall, with the vine maples. Everything is jammed in here. We didn't know what was going to live, and we didn't know how bad the locust trees were going to be, but I sure do like the way this turned out. So the Green Seattle Partnership has been in here, and some contractors are in here this week. They were in there. And so then we have other kinds of trees here. We've got cascara. We've got, oh God, what were they? Let's just walk through here. Ooh. Yeah, we got native shrubs that we planted. And then this is the grove of trees that they thought would be poisoned. The stumps were poisoned. And all this translocation below ground. Sorry if I'm using 4-syllable words, translocation. That means the herbicide has been spread around through the sap below ground, killing the adjoining trees. And so as we look across the creek, let's see if we can zoom in on the tree doctor, where the truck is right at the top of the creek. There we go. Okay. And that's water. I don't know if you can see that. Okay. So, I love it here. This is a fantastic spot. It's Mapes Creek, right? And the name of this place is the Mapes Creek at Kubota Garden Natural Area. Kind of a long name. But right now we're looking at a redwood tree that's probably about maybe 6 years old, but it was in a pot for a couple years. Came from the Kubota Garden Foundation plant sale. And right next to it is a big clump of ivy, which is a pump house, a little shack. So the redwood tree has been hit by falling trees. There it is. So I staked that up today. And what's been happening is that the ivy that was in these alders has killed the alders, some of them, and then they fall over. And the ivy is so heavy and so lush that the wind catches the ivy and yanks the tree over up by the roots. And that's what's been happening there. So I'm just going to spin around. There's a little birch tree that's leaning, and I think that's going to be on its way down to the ground. So we're going to do a little walkthrough. So here we go. We got, for all the people that work on your species identification, these flat needles are a hallmark of grand fir. Okay, grand fir is one of the natives, and it grows at low elevation. We've got some shore pine here. We're going to give you guys some close-ups of some needle clusters, and these have 2 needles per bundle, and then they have these little buds on them right there that are going to be popping out and throwing off more branches next year. This actually, next year is in about 3 weeks. Okay, then, you know, there is a possibility that a couple noble firs might have snuck in here. And you'll notice that these, this one might be a grand fir. And then right next to each other is infill, and so we planted a couple years in a row here. The first year everything looked really sparse, heat stroked, so then we jammed a bunch more in, and you can even see the ribbons that we put on them. So that's how tall the tree was the year that the ribbon was put on, and then now it's this tall. Okay, so I'm kind of at the edge of the creek. We'll be walking over. There's a bunch of brush piles here of holly and other weeds that workers have piled up. So this is like magnificent. I don't know if you can see on this tree right here. That tree grew over 4 feet last year. That's a 4.5 foot long candle. This tree is pretty healthy. There's some good dirt right in here. In fact, a lot of this dirt came from the terrace lawn. This one looks horrible. This baby's sick. You can see how something's gone wrong. We could have damaged the roots when we planted, or it could have been in a pot too long. Who knows? But this tree is never really going to amount to anything. Okay, so right next to it, cascara. Oh, there's a leaf here. Is that asymmetrical cascara leaf? No, this is an ash tree. Oregon ash. There you go. I'm so glad I remembered it before we passed along in the video. Yeah, so Oregon ash. We didn't actually plant any big leaf maples in here. We did plant this, looks like a vine maple. No. Well, believe me, someone watching this video is going to come along here, and in 5 years they're going to say, wow, hemlocks. The hemlocks did really well. This is a 20 foot tall hemlock that's only been in the ground 6 years. So that is fast growing. The Doug fir just to the right of it, that was already here. I switched to wide angle mode. So there was a house sitting here, friends. The house was sold for $1 and moved down the street, and it's on Roxbury today. Oh, now here's a little hemlock right next to these mountain beaver piles. Okay, so they love it around here. And who's been camping underneath this hemlock tree? I don't see any campsite. That's fantastic. Okay, well, the campers are slipping. All right, so now we're kind of getting in the separation area between Mrs. Huffaker's house and the red house that was next door. And as I come in through here, I can see I'm by the edge of the creek. I can see brush piles that have been stacked up here by eager volunteers, and this was all planted. So unfortunately, it was those little those other ferns that grow in here, and it kind of choked everything out. There's a There's a horse chestnut tree. This was brought in here before my time. Yes, horse chestnut. Or maybe it's a real chestnut. We'll have to check. Can somebody go check on that? There's some huge chestnuts on the power line corridor. So here is some of the more healthy progeny. Some hikers came through here and ripped these trees out of the ground and threw them in the hedge down the hill. And we brought them back and replanted them. And Leah down the road salvaged a bunch of them that she saw laying in the gutter. And we planted those back in here too. So right over in this area next to the Renton Avenue South, there's a couple Kellogg oak trees. I would love to find some of those for you. There used to be a wooden fence here that demarcated the two properties. Anyway, we planted, I think, 10 oak trees along the sidewalk in here, and the whole idea was that they hang over the street, hang over the sidewalk, but it's so hot here, they really didn't make it. And now they've been overplanted, and the people that planted after the oak trees probably didn't even see the oak trees. They were so tiny. There's one flag that died. I see some salmonberry in here. Here's a locust. We do not want this locust here. Ouch. Okay, guess what, locust? I am going to fix you. By the way, the city just came up with a proposal to train citizens on how to prune street trees. So guess what? That's how you prune locust trees. All right. So this is my handy dandy. And that's the name of it. But at Hardwick's Hardware, which in the future you people won't even know what Hardwick's was. Here's some trash, and of course I always put these in my pocket. At the end of the hike, our scoutmaster used to make us empty out our pockets, and whoever did not have any trash had to go back on the hike and redo the hike, and this time pick up trash, because usually you can see trash, and if you walk right by it, what kind of training is that? So this is where the other house was. Oh man, more 5-foot candles. Look at that. Right there. Doug fir. Look at the candles on these Doug firs. What if I zoomed in? Boom, right there, 5 feet. So these in the back are brought in from Oregon. They were landscape trees, and they're now dominant, big time dominant. Oh yeah. And then something else. Successful grand firs, successful Doug firs, successful western red cedar, all too close together, which is okay. Successful Sitka spruce, successful shore pine, successful Oregon ash, successful cascara, successful vine maple, and then the whole understory complement. So this was an amazing project. As we walk back in here, we can see the ferns. The ferns are, they basically killed stuff that was under 2 years old. Now some Doug firs have finally climbed up out of the ferns. Now right in the back is a big leaf maple. So that big leaf maple is on private property and there's a fence there. So right behind there is where they want to put a conservation easement and build 9 houses on the remaining portion. Okay. And we've had various little accidents where trees have just collapsed. We had tents in here. We had a lot of trash in here. They used the branches of the trees to string up their rain flies. And then over in here, as we head back out towards the sidewalk, we will find what might be news to a few people. This is the secret of how we kept these trees alive. There you go. There is the water supply. And just so you know, in case you want to come out here and plant some more trees, there is a water key down at the bottom of that enclosure. And the hose that I left here a couple years ago is still here. Okay. Somebody left their coffee cup. Let's get this out of here. So right down there by that yellow curb cut is the water meter. And when they rebuilt this street, they just replaced the water meter. I love it. And they didn't know that the house was gone and that the Parks had bought the property. I see some cracks in the sidewalk there as we look back. Okay, there's some camellias right here. I'm stepping over a lot of salal, ferns, and these are the original camellias from the red house. As we go back in around, let's take a look at some of this foliage from the non-native. This is arranged in spiral sprays, and these spiral sprays are flat, but this tree gets laminated root rot, and it's to the point of being an epidemic around here. Urban trees that have poor root systems just cannot hang. As we walk in the space between the trees, it's quiet. It's like a church in here. I guess that's why the encampment was set up. Okay, so the alders have been released. We pulled a lot of ivy out of here. We pulled a lot of blackberries out of here. 15-foot tall blackberry grove of about 1/4 of an acre right in here. And some of the trees that we asked to be poisoned are still here. So I guess they're waiting until the ones that we planted, like this western red cedar, get big enough, then they'll take over. Here's a clump of three Doug firs right together. A lot of Portuguese laurel in here. Here's some vine maple. This was put in here by the Green Seattle Partnership. Oh my goodness. Now they poisoned these Portuguese laurel, and I actually went in here and removed many Portuguese laurel. There's a big birch right there, and it's next to a hawthorn, and the hawthorn is growing right leaning against the fork of the birch. It's kind of hard to see. There's mushrooms hanging off the side of this dead Portuguese laurel. So this is the internal decay mechanism that is sending out flowering, fruiting bodies, and its drive for, ooh, these are nice. Kind of be nice to get a screenshot of that. Yeah, so you got big old honking fractures on the Portuguese laurel where it was injected, died. Oh, and then there's the creek. The creek's right there. There's a dam right there. It's a weir. Oh my goodness, look at all those stakes. Yeah, that was just recently planted there. I would say this year. Ferns. I don't know what those stakes are. I see yellow ribbons. And that's the second dam outside the garden. Over in this direction is the first dam, which has been breached. And by the way, there is a map of all those dams located in the public comments of 9666 51st Avenue South. Building permit application. And if you want to see the map, there's a 17-page report that was sent in as a public comment by Karen Walters, who I've been trying to get a hold of lately, because that permit is racing through to completion at the end of design review. All right, so right in here, this is mostly blackberries. This was completely impenetrable. Now then there was 7 or 11 locust trees removed here, and the wood is it's still here. And it makes great hugelkultur for these native conifers. Switch over to wide angle here. Yeah, you can see these logs laying here. So these are acting as a moisture sink. And then there is a big leaf maple. It's hollow right there. There's another one right there. And then there's this clump of western red cedars. There's a twin stem western red cedar over there, and this is a common camping area. There's a lot of ornamental rhodies in here that are super old, and I can see a couple branches have come down, but this is a 75-foot wide drip line of these two trees, and it is just wonderful to be here. I love how these branches just lay on the ground and you could just live here. Okay, well, maybe I'll be there someday. Now this was the driveway. This was gravel, and these trees were really hard to plant, I can tell you that. We had to use an iron bar to get a hole deep enough, and we had to plant them several years in a row because they kept dying because the ground was so hard, water didn't penetrate. And then this was the rose garden, and there was a verbal promise made to keep this rose garden going. And here's another Oregon ash. So I planted some roses that I salvaged out of some landscape that was being demolished. And oh my goodness, the blackberries have taken over the roses. There's a steep drop off right here. Here's one of them. Yeah, that's one of them. Okay, so I don't know how you guys are liking this walkthrough, but we're coming up to the end of Mapes Creek at Kubota Natural Area. Now this would be a fantastic place to put a pea patch. I'm going to ask again our newly elected U.S. Congressperson to activate the space and bring in some food. I talked to her, Kirsten Harris Talley, right before the election. And now that she's been elected, guess what? It's time for my pound of flesh. Nice little ponderosa pine. Not a lot of ponderosa pines this big in the city of Seattle. And then there's the southern magnolia, big leaf maple, western red cedar grove. And thank you for coming, friends.